A lot of you in this space, in this world of online theology, debating, philosophy, online politics, you may know that Ayan Hirsi Ali is leaning toward Christianity now. Her journey to Christianity started when she was 32 and became an atheist. She's now 53. A lot of you know that I have a problem with very specific apologists on YouTube, especially because they have this kind of soul-winning mentality. And I don't just mean the Protestants. There's a lot of Catholics who like to feed on the controversies of the day for audience share. I'm talking about Vortex. I'm talking about Brian Holdsworth. I'm talking about Tyler Marshall. I'm talking about Timothy Gordon and Matt Walsh. Although Matt Walsh, I wouldn't really call an apologist, more of a polemicist for conservatism. And at times I've come up against Trent Horn, surprisingly Jimmy Akin, and Joe Heschmeyer. And Joe Heschmeyer is currently my favorite apologist out there. But they have a tendency to delve into apologetics, and their rhetoric will overwrite their reason. Why am I bringing this up? So in a way, I'm a convert, in a way. I've always been Catholic. I was baptized Catholic as a baby. I don't want to mislead you. But for a very long time, I was not practicing. I left the church at 13. I came back to the church at 33. And I didn't really convert in, though, until I was 35. And I converted in because of these right here. These are the Liturgy of the Hours. I think I practiced through it 2 or 3 times. I'm going to say 2 times, beginning to end, before I really converted. After I had already gone through my confirmation, I still wasn't living as a Christian. I was going to church. I was reading the Bible. I had, at that point, read the Bible 4 times, front to back. But I wasn't living as a Christian. And I want to talk about what it takes to actually convert someone, because I'm pretty sure a lot of these bigger channels, they'll sometimes see a message of like, oh, well, you know, I was whatever. And then I converted over, even though when you look at the little symbol on it, there's not actually a name or anything attached to it. It's just someone blowing smoke up their ass and kissing their ass, which don't do that. Real conversion isn't instantaneous. It doesn't just happen. Like I said, I was born Catholic. I was born and baptized Catholic as a baby. But in my early youth, I was big into the occult and into magic, into esoteric practices and esoteric knowledge. A lot of my family had died, so I was really interested in proving or finding if ghosts were real. I was obsessed with the supernatural, really. And through my studies and through my search, I found that all of it was fake. All of it, all the occult stuff is fake. It all starts in like the 60s and 50s with Crowley and with a few other big name occult figures, Anton LaVey, a few other people. And they all just make it up. They all just take gods and goddesses from other ancient cultures and then repackage them as demons. And it's all crap. It's all BS. And the magic isn't real. Ghosts aren't real. Just sorry to break everyone's hearts. And then from there, from, I guess, 13 to sometime around 29, I went through a few phases, but I was mostly into Eastern practices. So the Tao Te Ching, the Book of 5 Rings, the Book of Tea. And then I got into really heavy philosophy in college. A little bit before college, actually, a mentor of mine gave me some works of Plato. And from there, I mean, it was amazing. I started off as a Socratic, then from a Socratic to a Stoic, and then all the way leaning towards a type of humanism. For a while there, I got lost in hedonism for a while, kind of like ethical humanism, I guess is what you might want to call it. But this ethical humanism I never really realized, and it didn't really go anywhere. And eventually I went back to the church because I reread the Bible, I think for the 3rd time. And that 3rd time, everything that Paul was saying was really not sitting right with me, and I wanted answers. I went to people like a Baptist preacher named Glosson, who used to do a podcast about Smallville. I went to local Baptist churches. I was trying to get to a synagogue and to a mosque. But eventually I found my way back to the church I went to as a kid. And I went to the RCIA program there. I met a lady who knew my mother, and she was like, her husband's running the RCIA program. Go ask your questions there. So I did. And eventually I got confirmed in the church. But I really wasn't living that way. I was still living very much the way I was living before, except now I was assenting to the gospel. But I really didn't know what all that meant or what all that implied in life until I got to the Liturgy of the Hours. And that was a really long, drawn-out process. And so I want to talk about that, about what it takes to really convert someone, because I've converted a few people into Christianity and into Catholicism and into theism and deism. And I brought them over from atheism, from hard atheism, where they were hating God, where they would actively say terrible and horrible things about God, and they would actively blaspheme. To demonstrate their disbelief, they would do horrific, blasphemous things, which led to a kind of like, well, do you really not believe? Because it seems like more you're angry at an individual than you're actually don't believe, because you didn't believe, you just wouldn't care, right? That kind of thing. And I've had those conversations on other people's channels and stuff like that in streams. But there isn't a quick conversion. There's no such thing as a quick conversion. First off, you're not converting anyone. It's the Holy Spirit. It's God who's converting someone. And if someone is irresistibly ignorant, there's nothing you can do to get past that. Irresistibly ignorant means like they just naturally don't believe. So what is it that happens in actual conversion? What is it that I'm doing to get people to come over? Because I have a small channel. A lot of those bigger channels that I'm dogging on, they have huge outreach, but they're peddling bullshit to people. They're throwing red meat to groups that are trendy and popular. Whether it's the rad trads, whether it's the ultra conservatives, they're saying things that they like to hear. They're saying things they agree with. Well, you're not converting anyone. They already agree with you. They already believe what you're saying. You're just maintaining an audience. I go in there and I'm arguing with people. I'm arguing with evangelicals. I'm arguing with Jesus, not religious types. I'm arguing with gospel of grace, with prosperity gospel. And I'm engaging with them. Like I'm having these arguments on a daily basis. I'm arguing with atheists. I'm arguing with Wiccans. And I'm getting in there with them. And I'm part of their life. When they suffer, I suffer. And I'm not doing it to convert them, but I'm maintaining my message throughout. Whether this was when I was a hedonist or whether it's now that I'm a Catholic, I'm maintaining my message. And I'm engaging in these conversations with atheists. And they ask, well, why do you believe in God? And I explain why I believe in God. And they say, well, that's not a good reason. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I'm going to keep believing and I'm going to keep living my life. And I'm not going to reject you for believing differently than me. And then we're going to have this conversation again. Even if you think we won't, we will. And when we do, I'm going to say the same thing. And that consistency over time through my own struggles and through my own temptations, which there are many, eventually they want to know. They want to know why I'm maintaining my faith. And maybe they'll read the Bible with me. Maybe we'll talk about, I don't know, believe it or not, I think I've gone through Dawkins one time and gotten someone to come to church. Astrophysics, I think I talked about one time, chaos theory. But anyway, so we just have these conversations and eventually they get curious. They want to go to church with me. They want to read the Bible with me. They want to see what I'm seeing or hear what I'm hearing. It's a very long process. I don't mean like long, like a few months or a few weeks. I mean years. Getting someone out of evangelicalism is not getting them into Catholicism. And there's all these paths that they can jump into. If someone's a prosperity gospel type, you don't want them to become an atheist. So you gotta stay with them until they get to at least where you're at. And if they go further than you, then you got to start following them. But when they're not where you're at, you got to maintain your path. And every time you fall for temptation, you're going to have to tell them. You're going to be like, hey, look, I screwed up. This is how I screwed up. And this is how I'm going to try to fix it. And if they think it's pointless or stupid, but they're still listening, let them be part of your struggle. Let them help you. And if they reject your message, then dust the sand off your feet and walk away. And there's a lot of people that have walked away. There's going to be way more failures than there are successes. But those successes, if you take your time and you're really talking to them and you're really listening to them, if they convert, if they come over, that's a permanent change. That's a real change. And it's not temporary. It's not to appeal to you. It's not blowing smoke up your ass. It's them saying, hey, that meant something to me. And I want to see what it means. I want to go explore it. There are times when I go to church and I feel completely isolated. There are times that I'm in a community of quote unquote religious people and all I see is the bigotry and the hate and the fear that they have and the shame that they have. And that is heartbreaking. But there are other times that I meet individual Christians who are loving, caring, self-sacrificing. And they have hard boundaries and hard rules, but they live their life, and they live their life well. And they're kind and happy, even giving the hardships and sufferings of life. They're charitable, and they're living this Judeo-Christian ethic out. It's not a faith without works. It's a faith with works, and it's beautiful. But planting those seeds and watering that ground and watching it grow takes time. And I know what you're saying. You're saying, Jesus already did all that. Jesus is still doing it. Okay? Jesus is still doing it in you. Jesus is still working on you. You're still growing. You ain't dead yet. You're not in heaven. You're on earth. You're still growing. You're still in the process. And as long as there's human beings on this earth, and as long as there's free will, you're in the process. Now, we can argue about what free will is, what level of free will is free will, blah, blah, blah. None of that matters. If you're alive and God hasn't come back yet, you are in the process. Currently, it's been 2,023 years of the process. And it ain't over. It ain't over. So you have to continuously convert, or as the Protestants say, continuously reform. But you have to, it's a continual process. It's continual action, continual ascent. And it's hard to do. So any one of these channels who have a quick convert, like I was a Orthodox, this and that. I was a Eastern, this and that. I was a Wiccan. I was a Satanist. I was a whatever for 20 years. And then I watched one of your videos and now I've converted. No, you haven't converted for shit. You got nothing. You're not a Christian. You're not a Christian here. You're not a Christian here. Yeah, you've been washed of sin. Congratulations. You've taken the first step. Now you got to live it out. I think Kat Von D had a recent conversion, and a lot of people gave her shit. And that's wrong, man. When I was a goth, I was no less a Christian than now that I dress normal. When I had blue hair and piercings and all that stuff, that didn't make me less Christian or less Catholic or less anything. What made me less Christian was not what I wore. It was how I acted. Yeah, I was baptized, but I was doing horrendous and evil shit. So it doesn't really matter, you know? What was important was the gift of the Spirit that would guide me out of that. It was that gift of faith, that gift of belief, that gift of grace. That was the important part of that baptism, was being forgiven and being made part of the body of Christ. So I could later return. That initial gift was important. And then that return on investment was super important. The same thing with you, man. I don't care if you're a Hindu. I don't care if you're an atheist. I don't care if you're a Satanist. I don't care if you're a Wiccan. I'll talk to you. I don't care if you disagree with me completely. I don't care if you're a Catholic who thinks they're super conservative Catholic. If you're busy hating on people and hurting people and stealing from people and taking their money, you're not living right. So I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you right now. I'll tell you why I think it's wrong to take from these people. And I'll tell you why I think it's wrong to hate these people and why you have to love them. And why, no matter what kind of sin they've committed, you need to forgive them. And you need to not judge them because you're a sinner too. I'll keep saying that message. I don't care if you're Tyler Marshall. I don't care if you're Brian Holtzworth. I don't care if you're Gavin Ortland. I love Gavin Ortland, but if Gavin Ortland ever says some hateful stuff, I'm going to call him out on it. I don't care if my channel has 100 views, has 100 subscribers, has 1,000 views, has 1,000 subscribers. My biggest video is a video talking about the Quran. Doesn't matter. If me and you are engaging and we're talking, you're the most important person that I'm talking to. And I will listen. But I'm going to have my opinions and I'm going to disagree with you. And we will grow together. As long as we're on the path together. And if you go a different way and I go a different way, well, then that's the end of us walking together. That's conversion. Conversion takes time because they're going to walk away. And sometimes you're going to walk away. And then you got to find your way back. And then when you're back, you got to find that person that you lost and you got to bring them back. So sometimes you're the lost sheep. Sometimes you're the shepherd. And sometimes you're just a shepherd who's very confused. And that's life, man. That's not just religion. That's life. So yeah, Kat Von D, Ion, converting in. These are great things. These are good things. But it's a long conversion. And until they're dead, the journey's not over. They can still reject Christ at any point. Jordan Peterson is on a super long journey. He's got a lot of stuff to work through. Who knows where he's at in his journey? I don't know. I can't judge his heart. Can you? Do you think you can? Because you can't. I don't know if you don't know that. Why do I get angry at Tyler Marshall and Holtzworth and these people more so than I get angry at Ian, more so than I get mad at Dawkins or those types. Logic, atheism is unstoppable. Why don't I get mad at them the way that I get mad at these people? Well, the reason why is because these people are claiming to speak for the church. They're claiming to speak for Christ. They don't. They really don't. I'm humble enough to admit that I don't know shit. I'm just on this journey with everyone else. I'm hoping I'm following the right path because I have faith. I have faith that I'm on the right path. But I've been wrong before. And BS and sugarcoating the truth to help it go down easier is a wrong approach. The truth doesn't need to lie to be accepted. But conversion is a process, and it takes a long time. And even after you convert, you're not done becoming Christian. Yeah, getting baptized is great. Congratulations. Good job. Step one. And if you die tomorrow and you haven't sinned between your baptism and then, congratulations, you made it to heaven. But for the rest of us who are still alive, we mess up all the time. We get things wrong all the time, and we have to continually convert. We have to continually assent. And sometimes it's really hard. And sometimes our temptations get the best of us. Sometimes our fears get the best of us. Sometimes our doubts get the best of us. Sometimes we don't understand what it's saying. I'm currently reading the Church Fathers. I read the Bible 7 times front to back. That's not including all the times I've heard it in church. Not including all the times I've heard it from preachers on TV, not including all the times I've read it randomly. And still reading the Church Fathers, I'm learning so much about the Bible. Reading the Rabbinical Fathers, which is something I did prior to converting back into or reconverting. Reading the Rabbinical Fathers was immensely illuminating. I was listening, used to have these free college courses on YouTube, and I would listen to the rabbinical schools teaching the new rabbis about the Old Testament. And it was beautiful. I'd learned so much from that. I've taken those online courses with, they're not real college courses, but they're online courses given either by the Great Courses Plus or by a college or by a website. And it's Bart Ehrman. It's a few other, all the major secular biblical scholars. I've taken those courses, man. I've paid for them, watched them for free. That's free. You can figure that out. I've subscribed to them. I've signed up for their stuff, and learning all of that stuff was great, but it didn't make me actually live out the life. It took the Liturgy of the Hours for me to start living Orthodox faith. Anyway, that's all for now. Please like and subscribe.